Welcome to the final Really Good Films podcast of 2023, where we'll look back at the festive films we've covered recently, but also look forward to what movies the start of 2024 brings. First, we'll look at the original review of each film, followed by extra commentary that might have spoilers. Don't worry, you'll be warned before any spoilers, so you can skip them if you wish. The films we've covered recently have been full of Christmas cheer, from finding love in Holidate, to the musical magic of Jingle Jangle, A Christmas Journey, to the perils of meeting the family in Love Hard, and lastly, A Wish with a Warning in Candy Cane Lane. Now we know what's in store, let's look at the original review of Holidate. Here's what you need to know about Holidate. It sees two singles agree to be each other's platonic plus ones for all holidays. It stars Emma Roberts, Luke Bracey and Kristin Chenoweth. The film's premise is solid, but there isn't enough depth to it to justify a feature film. It stretches its threadbare plot over an entire year of holidays, drawing even more attention to its lack of substance. Jokes that work are few and far between, and more often than not, its humour feels crude and forced. Luckily, Emma Roberts and Luke Bracey have good on-screen chemistry, which makes the film more enjoyable. However, this Holidate is best avoided. The extra thoughts on Holidate do contain the description of a scene, which is not necessarily a spoiler, but if you don't want to know any more details about the film's plot, feel free to skip forward now to the next review. Holidate is a very mixed bag. The script can be very on the nose about the fact it's an anti-rom-com, but in order for its story to work, it quickly reverts to the tropes it lampoons. As I have said, the jokes are for the most part weak, but the best one is provided by Kristin Chenoweth and Manish Dayal during a wedding scene, with the latter delivering the chuckle-inducing punchline. I would say this should have been a short film, but knowing the lack of ideas for films these days, we would have likely ended up with a feature anyway. Hopefully those extra thoughts on Holidate helped those wanting to know more before seeing the film. Now it's time to look at the original review of Jingle Jangle, A Christmas Journey. Here's what you need to know about Jingle Jangle, A Christmas Journey. It's a Christmas-themed musical featuring Forrest Whitaker, Keegan-Michael Key and Ricky Martin. It tells the story of an inventor who must rediscover his inner magic with the help of his granddaughter to save his shop and himself. Jingle Jangle is a fun holiday film that aims to deliver a great musical spectacle, and somewhat achieves this goal. The actors bring fantastic energy to the material, and the singing is very impressive. The film's key issue is that its musical numbers are filled with clunky exposition, which will prevent adult audience members feeling immersed in its world. However, Jingle Jangle is still an enjoyable journey that will entertain you this Christmas. The extended review of Jingle Jangle does not contain spoilers, so here are some of my additional notes on the film. Jingle Jangle reminds me of The Greatest Showman. Its music features all the right musical cues, but has a somewhat generic feel. The child actors are excellent, but my favourite performance comes from Lisa Davina Phillip, who delivers the best humour in the film. Like many Netflix features, the CG is suspect at times, and heavy use of sets and green screen is somewhat distracting. I appreciate it's meant to be fantasy, but other films have created intentionally stagey environments without it feeling like you're watching something that should be on stage. That being said, this is one of the better Christmas films created by a streaming service, and it is worth watching. Our next film seemed to be very popular upon its release in 2021, and so I had relatively high expectations going into it. Let's look at the initial review of Love Hard. Here's what you need to know about Love Hard. It tells the story of Natalie, who is unlucky in love. So, when she falls for a guy on a dating app, she decides to surprise him by flying across America to meet him in person for the first time, for Christmas, only to find out she's being catfished. Love Hard has got a difficult premise to sell, turning someone getting tricked into something romantic. It is helped by likeable performances by Nina Dobrev and Jimmy O Yang. The film doesn't try to be ambitious, and as a result, doesn't make any major missteps. Love Hard is a serviceable Christmas film, but you are unlikely to remember it after the credits roll. The extended review of Love Hard does not contain spoilers, so here, for your enjoyment, is some additional commentary on the film. Love Hard has some cringeworthy moments that seek the approval of its millennial audience, but thankfully they are relatively brief. The script consistently risks making our lead Natalie unlikable, mostly due to her LA affectations. Luckily, Nina Dobrev deals well with this material, ensuring that her character keeps the audience on side. The supporting cast have fun in their roles, with Harrison Jr. especially relishing his role as the attention-seeking older brother of our love interest. Despite there being worse holiday films, there's not enough here to recommend you watch Love Hard. Our last film released very recently. Will it be a Christmas classic? Let's look at the original review of Candy Cane Lane. Here's what you need to know about Candy Cane Lane. It stars Eddie Murphy and tells the story of a man who is so determined to win his neighbourhood's Christmas decorating contest that he makes a deal with a naughty elf. Candy Cane Lane is a bizarre affair that mixes poorly integrated CG with even worse jokes. The cast do their best with the film's awkward and cliché-filled script, but solid performances can only take us so far. I think this Christmas movie is firmly on Santa's naughty list and is therefore best missed. The extra thoughts on Candy Cane Lane are spoiler-free and elaborate on my criticism of the film. Candy Cane Lane has a good idea at its core, based around a Christmas song. However, the premise is buried in forced humour, which rarely produces a smile. The special effects often noticeably sit on top of practical elements, making them look artificial and dated. I'm not sure who this film is for, as it is too creepy for kids and contains a surprising amount of raunchy humour. It also has an impressively awful Cockney accent provided by Nick Offerman, and so Amazon's Christmas tentpole movie for 2023 ends up being quite weak. Now we've had another look at the films we've reviewed recently, it's time to look at what early 2024 has in store. Coming to us on the 5th of January is Night Swim. The film sees a family's backyard pool terrorised by an evil spirit. The movie looks suitably spooky and the idea is interesting. However, if its premise intrigues you, I'd suggest avoiding the trailer, as it gives away too much of the plot, and just watch the film. It is interesting that this is being released in January, as one would have thought a summer release, when pools are more in use, would have been a good idea. Coming to us on the 12th of January is Poor Things. This feature tells the tale of the evolution of Bella Baxter, who is brought back to life by the unorthodox scientist Dr. Goodwin Baxter. Poor Things looks like a modern Frankenstein, with a visual flair similar to the works of Jean-Pierre Jeunet. The film seems like it is going to be delightfully bizarre, and let's hope it has sufficient fun and whimsy to sustain the audience for the entirety of its runtime. On the 17th of January, we get the musical remake of Mean Girls. For those unfamiliar with the 2004 original, the story sees Katie Heron fall in with the popular girl clique at her new school. But these friendships are put in jeopardy when she falls in love with the head of the clique's ex-boyfriend. The film is based on the Broadway adaptation of the first movie, but the trailer seems to underplay this. While it does seem to have new ideas for this generation, in addition to the musical spin, I'm not convinced we really needed a new version of Mean Girls on screen. Next, on the 19th of January, we get The Holdovers. Unfortunately, this seems to have been a delayed release for the UK, with America getting this in time for Christmas. The Holdovers follows a grumpy teacher at a remote school, being forced to stay on campus over the holidays to look after a troubled student with nowhere to go. The 1970s throwback setting and aesthetic suit what looks to be a charming coming-of-age story. The cast of struggling characters all seem very likeable, and I'm looking forward to watching this film. Closing our films being released in January, on the 26th, comes The Colour Purple. The film tells the story of a woman who faces many hardships, finding strength and hope in the unbreakable bonds of sisterhood. It is worth noting that this is not a simple remake of the beloved 1985 film, but a film version of a 2005 Broadway musical adaptation of the book on which that film was based. While it does appear to incorporate elements of Spielberg's film, it seems like this new film offers an original take that may be worth checking out. Well, that concludes 2023's last episode of the Really Good Films podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you want more from Really Good Films, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. We're at Really Good Films on all of these platforms. And of course, subscribe to the podcast too on Spotify and Amazon Music. We can't wait to review more films for you soon.